So welcome to this webinar on starting up a business. With myself, I'm Joe Wigsall. I look after the academy here at Roland, and I am with Alex.
I'm Alex from the Vinyl Guys, and I've been using Roland print and cut equipment now for about 2.5 years.
There you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and play a video for you, okay, which is a little bit of an introduction to Alex, because Alex was actually part of our Roland Hero campaign that we did recently. And so I'm just going to, we tried to load this a minute ago, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. So you can hear, if you can hear loud piano music, it might be our video. It might actually be working. Hold on. Let me just see if I can play this video for you. Sorry, a little bit of a technical glitch here. Bear with me. Let's see if we can do this. That was the sound in the background. Yeah, sorry, we've been trying to play a video and it doesn't seem to be working. So I'm just going to cancel it a minute. It doesn't seem to be working. That might have been the noise that you can hear in the background. Is that all gone now? Oh, it's playing now. Okay. Big technical glitch then. Sorry, it's not showing up on my screen. Good, I'll forgive it, okay? If you want to watch Alex's quick video, you can jump on our YouTube channel and just search for the Vinyl Guys, and that'll give you a bit of an introduction. Always happens whenever you're doing something live. So we'll skip that bit. And do you just want to give a quick overview, so instead of watching the video, as to what your sort of background is, Alex?
I started cutting vinyl to make stickers for a race car that a friend and I were building about 4 years ago. And once people found out I was doing that, we started selling a few little bits of vinyl, and the business kind of grew from there. I started in the spare bedroom with the cutter, outsourcing all of my print, doing small liveries for commercial vehicles, small stickers. And after a couple of years, invested in a Roland printer myself so I could bring everything in-house, and the business grew from there.
Brilliant. And then here we are today. Yeah. So as long as you guys can all hear, we'll carry on. So I've got, as I said, a bunch of sort of starter questions. Feel free to ask the questions and we'll turn back to those as we can. I reckon we're going to go on for, I don't know, 45 minutes an hour. We'll have a bit of just a Q&A session at the end as well. But so a lot of guys who are starting out, you've been through the whole process from start to sort of where you are now. And how long has that been?
4.5 years now, from sort of starting with my vinyl cutter in the bedroom to where we are now, which is with some proper commercial print equipment, an installation centre, offices, and really the last 2.5 years since I've had the printer have been where most of the growth has happened.
Okay, and how did you go about starting out? So sort of, I guess, how did you get into the vinyl cutting bit? And then you said back with that sort of car start a bit, and then how did you jump from the vinyl cutter to the next bit?
I never intended it to be a business. It was we were building a race car, and the graphics for it were quite expensive. So I looked into buying the equipment to do it ourselves because it saved us some money, and it sort of grew naturally from there, really. After probably 6 months of having the vinyl cutter, I realised that there was a market out there for commercial vehicle graphics, and that's when I decided to turn it into a little bit of an eBay sideline, really, and it grew naturally from there. Okay,
so after it started picking up, you started to go with eBay, getting a little shop, and that just kept growing, getting busy, taking up what of your time.
Yeah, the cut vinyl. You could do so many things with just cut vinyl, and what I found was people were asking for printed photographic work and wraps, which was obviously something I couldn't do just with the vinyl cutter. So I found somewhere to outsource my print to. Sometimes it took a long time. The quality was a little bit hit and miss. The control over artwork and doing samples for people was obviously quite a slow process. So I knew that I would want to invest in a printer, and what I decided to do was outsource up until the point where the business had generated enough money for me to invest in the printer myself.
Okay. And sorry, somebody's just asking what kind of cutter it was there. You had a good question.
It was a Liu 610, which
no idea.
Which was it was essentially what it was. It was the cheapest machine that I could find on eBay. I think we paid I think it was £650 for a PC, the cutter, and a big box of mixed vinyl, and it suited what we needed it for. And I used that machine for 2.5 years.
And did you have any prior knowledge before you got the vinyl cutter as to how to do graphics, how to design, how to cut, how to anything?
Nothing at all. No.
Okay.
I watched YouTube videos. I read a few blogs from people that had started similar businesses, and lots of trial and error, lots of wasted vinyl, lots of wasted time.
Okay. And the same with the print side, when you decided to jump from having the cutter and looking at moving on to the next step. Again, I guess you had been outsourcing it, so you must have known about quality and what was coming through, but did you have any knowledge in the print side of it?
No, nothing at all. I'd built up a really good knowledge of artwork preparation and making sure that the quality of the files that I was sending to outsourcing was right. So that side of things I'd got knowledge of, but the print wise, nothing at all.
Okay, so if we go back to the design bit, did you teach yourself that as well?
Yeah, Adobe Illustrator, through YouTube videos and through Adobe help videos on their website.
Impressive. How long did that take you?
It's ongoing.
Yeah, it never stops, but
no, it doesn't. Again, just YouTube videos, trial and error. When I didn't have work on, I would sort of make up a pretend design brief, and I'd design Van Graphics leaflets, business cards, posters, all those sort of things, just in spare time, just to get the practice of using the software, pretending that I was working for a client, and sending things to outsourcing and having them delivered to me as well, so I could check on the quality of what was being sent to customers.
That's brilliant. I think when I was studying, we did the same thing where you'd have to go through a whole process of a fake something just to make yourself do things that you're not really comfortable with. So, all right. Well, and so when you started, you said you were kind of doing stuff. I guess it might have been word of mouth. How did you get more customers? How did you get more work?
It was word of mouth first of all, and then it was an eBay shop, and then social media. So Facebook, Twitter. Now we've sort of moved on to doing a little bit on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. But initially it was Facebook and Twitter. They were the first two sort of platforms that I used. And was that pointing people towards the eBay shop, or was that just general exposure, or a little bit of both really? There was a link to the eBay shop, and then it was looking through social media to find people that had either just bought new vans or people that were starting businesses that I could sort of speak to and get in contact with and offer services to. Okay.
Did you do any other advertisement?
Not at that point. Since I've had the printer, I've done sponsored adverts on social media. I've sponsored a kids football team as well, which got some good coverage. But
that's interesting.
Apart from that, paid advertising, I haven't really done a lot of.
Okay. And with word of mouth, is it literally word of mouth? Somebody tells a friend, or do you have, recommendation discounts, or is there any other way that you kind of got exposure?
It is literally word of mouth. People see the work that you do on a van or that you do on clothing, and people in the same industry that they know ask, where have you had that done? Knocking on doors as well, and leafleting, especially with signage. Local shops where you walk past and you see the signs could look a little bit better, or window displays, going in and speaking to people, giving them a leaflet, talking about the different
proactive
things.
About it as well. Yeah. Okay. When you did come to looking at taking that jump from a vinyl cutter, this is a big thing that I find that we get asked a lot. Obviously, there's the getting into the vinyl cutting stage, which you kind of seem to have more or less stumbled upon for the start bit. Just because out of a need to, or a want to do it yourself and make it cheaper. How did you then, know what printer to go for, or where to go with that journey?
I spent probably about 12 months talking to other printers, going to Sign and Digital and other trade shows, and chatting to people about what equipment that they use, and speaking to the people that I'd been outsourcing to find out what machinery that they'd used, and they were using Roland equipment. And really just trying to find as much information about the options that were out there for printers.
Did you find it was easy to get that information? Did you find people were forthcoming with that? Or?
Some were,
yeah,
and some weren't. At the shows, people were, because they were there to promote what they do. But sort of approaching other people cold and sort of asking what equipment are you running. Some people would be really open, and others just wouldn't give you any information.
Okay, interesting. And then how did you choose which one? Obviously, if you've been recommended, obviously you were recommended to join us at Roland and get a Roland, but there's a lot of different machines.
There are, and what I found was that the general quality of what the machines put out and the prices, they were all quite similar. What I found when I spoke to people that had run Roland equipment was that they all seemed a little bit more passionate about the machine, which I suppose is how I feel about mine. And the talk about the service team and the support and the backup. And that was the thing for me, because I'd never run commercial print equipment before, because I didn't have a clue about it. It was the support that was available that really sort of encouraged me to go with Roland rather than anyone else.
So what was your next step? Did you go and see us at a show? Did you go and speak to dealers?
I went to a couple of dealers. I came and saw you here, and then saw you at a show, and then found the dealer that I was going to buy from at the show, and found an ex-demo machine, which was ideal because it had done, I think, about 8 hours of print work.
Oh, brilliant.
So I got a great deal at the show.
And that was the model that had you previously chosen that was the model you wanted?
Yeah. I knew that I wanted something that was print and cut. At the time, space was a really important thing for me, and it was 2 machines in one, really, and that's why I picked that one.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people who are starting out, space is often not easy to come by. So having everything built into one device can help. So you got your printer, you've set up your business, you started getting a bit of work coming in. What materials do you use? And or how did you know what materials to use? Where did you look for information on that?
The trade shows again were brilliant for that, because not only have you've got machinery there, you've got all of the material suppliers, you've got the seminars, people demonstrating different materials. So it was a really good place. I spent 2 days wandering around, pretty much getting samples of everything that I could do with the machine. I mean, primarily, I would say 80% of my work at the moment is commercial vehicles. So we do wraps, cut vinyl signage and printed signage, and then clothing and signage as well. So we print on vinyl, wallpaper, canvas, paper, window graphics. And
at the shows, did you go and get samples to test?
Yeah.
Did you then go back and just give it a go and see if it works? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I worked through maybe 25 or 30 meters of various materials, just trying things out, printing my own photos. Again, using the artwork for those pretend companies that I'd done.
Okay, so use them as a gauge to see which ones you prefer. Okay, and then just chose one to settle on. Did you go with price? Do you go with quality, the relationship with the people?
The relationship's a big thing for me, and that same as with buying the printer with you guys, knowing that the support's there. Often with materials, I mean, there's hundreds to choose from, but often the cheapest isn't necessarily the best one to go with. It was the support and the stock and the turnaround for the materials. For materials now, what I look at is quick delivery, because then I have to keep less in stock. I've got less money sat there. So if I know that I can order something before 6 o'clock and it can be with me the next day. Okay,
that's interesting. Mm-hmm. And how did you know what products you could create, or that you wanted to create, I guess, or how have you limited yourself, and do you offer everything?
It's really difficult, because sometimes I think you can offer too many things. I mean, the core business is vehicle graphics, and the things that go hand in hand with that for upselling is clothing and signage, and things for retail spaces, so window displays, wallpapers. So that's really the scope of work that we do.
Okay, so you went with the core market, your vehicles, and then you looked at the types of business that get their van done. What else might they need?
Yeah, it's a case of looking for the easy upsells, really, because if somebody's coming to you for vehicle graphics, you've generally got you've got their artwork. Once they've had the van done and they're happy with your work, it's easy for them then to come to you and say, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And sometimes they'll ask for something that is not something that we normally do, but if they're an existing customer, you can either create it yourself. If not, you can outsource it from somewhere else.
Okay, so you still got relationships with other people to do outsourcing of certain things?
Yeah, and I do the same for other people. So I've got people that come to me for printing that have what I used to have, which is just the vinyl cutter in the spare room, and they'll come to me for print. So I'm able to offer print at a trade price, which lets them then mark it up and grow their business as well.
Brilliant. And in terms of materials, how many do you tend to have stocked at your place?
I tend to stock, when it comes to vinyl, probably 4. So there's a budget range of vinyl which we use for labels and stickers, and then we've got like a medium range for flat panel printed work, slight recess work, and then full wrap vinyl. And I also keep in canvas material, wallpaper, and banner material as well.
Okay. All right, we'll take a quick break from my default set of questions and see if any have come in on the chat there. So let's jump back onto the bigger screen there. So how long did it take to make it a full-time career?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
Was that out of your choice? Could you have jumped earlier, or do you think that's just about the right amount of time, or was that just the way it worked for you?
It's just the way it worked for me. It's a really difficult decision. I mean, my full-time career was nothing at all to do with design or print or graphics or anything. So it was moving into something completely new for me, and it's all. I mean, a change of company in the same industry is always a big jump, but to be completely changing from being employed to working for yourself is a huge leap. So it took a lot of time making sure that the business was viable, that the work was out there. And what I found when I had that vinyl cutter, I knew then that there would be the work out there, because the market's so huge and the possibilities are pretty much endless once you've got equipment in house.
Okay. Do you think you could have made the jump across in terms of how much business you had and the kind of level that you were at earlier, or do you think that was about the right amount of time for?
It's probably about the right amount of time, and it takes a lot of time to build up a sort of a gallery of work that gives people confidence to then come to you and buy from you. And what I found recently is, with social media, the more you sort of promote work that you've done, the more work that then attracts. But then it's finding the time to do the design work, to create all the print and all the cut vinyl, and then to install it as well. So it's difficult to split yourself sometimes between a salesman, a manufacturer of vinyl, and an installer. You have to wear all the hats to start with. Yeah,
interesting. Okay, we'll have a quick look if there's any other questions popped up. Is there an easy formula to price your jobs? That's one of the questions we've got written down, so we'll cover that in a minute. When you moved to the printer cutter, how did you go about figuring out how to price jobs? Same thing. There you go. What was the training like from Roland? Hopefully it was good, because I look after the training.
You know what? I must have made probably about 8 or 10 phone calls to the team about issues with the printer, which were completely user error.
Yeah.
It was like using a new piece of computer software. The more that I used it, the more familiar I became with it, and the easier it became. But what I hoped would be the case, which was having that support there, that was the case. So without the help from you guys, if I'd have bought a second user machine, that help wouldn't necessarily have been there straight away. So I would have really struggled. But because that support was there, it sort of helped me through all the little issues that at the time were very minor. But if I hadn't had anyone there to help me, they would have sort of snowballed, and I might have, it might have turned into a bigger problem. So yeah, the training was very good.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll take a hold on the questions coming in again for a minute. We'll answer the big one that you guys seem to be asking, which is a very common question. How do you price your work?
It's a really difficult question. For things like labels and stickers and banners, it's very easy to have a set, either a per square meter price or with labels, for example. I do a lot of like service reminder labels for plumbing, for like heating and gas engineers, and I do a set of 200 service reminder labels for £60, and they're a set size. So that's the sort of thing that you can calculate. And the same with banners. If people are coming to you for a 2 meter wide banner or a 3 meter wide banner, you can put on it a square meter price. So they're easy to work out. When it comes to things like van graphics and wallpapers and things like that, if people want more, there's a lot more design work goes in the background. And especially for vehicle graphics, there's a lot of time in printing, laminating and installing. So obviously those jobs have to sort of be priced per job, really. And it's down to what people want to make from it. And one mistake I made very early on was underpricing myself. And I think you've got to be really strict with, more than strict, you've got to be honest with yourself about the amount of time that you're spending on the artwork, on the backwards and forwards and changing things and tweaking designs, and on the printing, waiting for it to outgas, laminating it, travelling to the job, installing it. And I think when you look at the time that a job actually takes up, that amount of time, you really need to price yourself per hour and make sure that you are earning from the job and not just breaking even.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, makes sense, I guess.
It's a really good thing to have that discussion with your customer early on, and sort of try and explain at each stage the work that goes into each aspect. Because when a customer comes to you, that they want their van sign written, they don't understand what goes on in the background or how you achieve that final product. So I think if you can start early on to have a conversation about the range of different materials that there are, give your customer a couple of different price options, it then starts a conversation about materials and about the work that you do in the background to get to the final product.
Okay, and do you have that quite visible to a customer? Like, so say you've got your lower grade or entry level product of say we're talking about stickers. You've got a lower grade product, but there's a medium grade product, or there's a 100mm long sticker, and then there's a 200 or 300m long.
Yeah.
Is that all quite visible to your customers?
Yeah, if people are local, I try and encourage people to sort of come in and do the sort of the design brief stage face to face. Especially the initial brief. And then again, once we've got the initial design, you can do it by email, but sometimes it can be 5 or 10 emails backwards and forwards, changing little things on the design. Whereas if they're sat opposite you, or you go and visit them with a laptop, you can do it in front of them. But certainly with materials, once I've explained the difference between the price points of the materials, I send out A4 swatches to people or do sample prints. What a lot of people will ask for is what's the difference between laminated and non-laminated, and sometimes that is easier just to send out a laminated print, an unlaminated one, and straight away they can sort of scratch the surface of the unlaminated one and see how it reacts differently, and then imagine those on the vehicle and the day-to-day use of the vehicle. With a lot of people now leasing vehicles as well, a really good discussion point, especially for vehicle graphics, is removal at the end of that 2, 3, 5 year lease, and that's another opportunity to sort of upsell to a higher quality vinyl because it's beneficial for them with ease of removal. And they're all little conversations that you can have along that sales process, which help justify that price at the end, rather than just hitting somebody with a figure and them thinking, oh, that was more than I thought it was going to be. If you've already had that discussion, they can kind of understand themselves the work that goes into it, because at the end of the day, most vehicle graphics customers, they're either fleet managers or they're running businesses themselves. So they'll understand that there's processes and that everybody's got to make money on a job. And
when it came to creating a square meterage price, for example, how did you go about that?
The good thing about VersaWorks, as you know, with the Roland printers, is that you can find how much ink you're using for each job, the time each job's taking. So there's no kidding yourself with that. You can find the time cost, the ink cost. You can work out your material costs. And once you've done a banner or a set of labels, it's really handy to keep a list of how long it's taking you to do from start to finish, not forgetting to include things like postage prices, packaging prices. These are all little things that I've done it in the past. You think, oh, it's only a couple of pounds or it's only 50p, but they're all costs that you've got to account for and that you need to take into consideration when you are coming up with a price.
Okay, so you got your ink cost, your media cost, whatever time has been used on that, and then any additional cost. And you what do you have? Like I guess you could create an easy spreadsheet where you pop it all in, and it gives you a working cost, and then profit more percentage you could put on top of that.
Yeah, definitely. But then again, it depends on the customer. If you've got somebody that's come to you for a van, and they end up having a van, clothing, a banner, some shop signage, labels, you then look at everything as a whole, and you can do them a better price for having a bigger package of work. And that for me was the beauty of bringing everything in house, was that if somebody was coming to me for more work, I could. Because I'm doing everything in there, I can do it a little bit cheaper. Whereas when you're outsourcing, the price is the price. You're kind of stuck with the price that you're paying.
Did you do any research into maybe competitors in the area who are pricing at anything?
Yeah, and I still do as well. The beauty of sort of social media and and the internet is that you can look quite easily at what other people are charging. And there are some people that will come to you and all they want is bottom line. All they want to know is a bottom line, and there are materials out there for that. And I think as long as you explain to your customer, if you are doing a job for as cheap as possible, if they just want something fast and cheap, as long as you're explaining the limitations of that material, I think you're protecting yourself while still getting the work. Okay,
brilliant. What do you use for your design? You mentioned earlier, I think you use the Adobe Suite, I guess. Yeah, and the same for proofing. I've seen some of your work, obviously on social media, where you're showing mock-ups of what the end design would look like and stuff as well. So all the same.
Yeah, all through Illustrator. I use 20th scale drawings, which is a company called Impact Vehicle Graphics. I've got their sort of CD, as it were. It's a USB stick now, and it's literally a library of cars, lorries, vans, bin lorries, buses, pretty much anything you can imagine on there. And people tell me what van they've got, select the correct drawing, design on Illustrator, and then when it's ready to go to print, take it across, increase it by 2,000%, and you've got a full-scale piece of artwork ready to print.
Brilliant. Sounds easy. Looking back at your journey, I don't know, give us 3 things, maybe three sort of top things that you would do differently.
Pricing is a big thing. I think for the first 12 months, I think probably kidding myself that I was making more than I actually was. And I think when I was honest with myself about time, it was probably more realistically that I was breaking even, maybe losing on some jobs. So certainly pricing is the big thing. And sort of leading into that, materials as well. I'd got very focused on using one type of vinyl because it was available from a place that was like a 10-minute drive from me. And it was the right price. And what I should have done is looked into what else was available. So material testing and pricing, and then probably push myself a little bit more earlier on. It's difficult when you're doing it as a sideline in the spare room and you've got a full-time job and a family and all of the rest of it. But looking back, that's one thing I wish I had done is push it a little bit more early on, and it would have grown a little bit sooner. Maybe I could have bought the printing in-house a little bit earlier.
Okay. And how hard did you find it at the beginning to learn all the different bits and bobs?
It is difficult, especially when I wasn't used to any sort of design software. But it's really worth persevering with, and the help's out there, and it doesn't have to cost anything. The amount of YouTube videos and help videos that we're on, like Adobe's Help Suite, on your channel as well, and help's out there, and there are other printers out there that are willing to help people as well. I've started doing like a print business growth workshop, which I've done for free of charge. I've done 2 now. I'm going to try and do 3 or 4 every year, which is a day where I ask people to sort of come up with a bit of a brief about their business and tell me about what they want to know more about, what they want to learn, and they come along for a day to my office and unit, and we answer questions, and we go through the process of physically printing a job, and that's really helpful. And what I found the last one is that a lot of the attendees got chatting to each other, and everybody found that everyone's got the same questions about pricing and artwork, and it's a really good way of networking.
Sounds great. I remember I wanted to come to your last one myself, but I couldn't make it. So I guess that's what we're doing do today as well. What other opportunities are there, do you think? Another good question.
There's so many. I think every business, for every business, there's something that you can create, whether it's posters and banners or business cards or leaflets or window graphics. Everybody's got something that you can do something for, with a print and cut machine, because everybody wants to promote their business. And I think sometimes it's the customers that will give. I've had customers sort of give me ideas for products. So that's quite nice sometimes when you do a van for somebody and somebody says, have you thought of doing this, or have you thought of doing that? And clothing is a really good example. I'd got into just doing vehicle graphics, signs, banners, and I'd had 4 or 5 people ask about, do you do clothing? And it's something that I just put to the back of my mind, because I was aware that I could do it with the printer that I'd got. And I bought a heat press, and it was sat in the box for probably about 2 months. And I don't know why, it's time sometimes. But as soon as I'd started doing it, you realise actually there's a market out there for it, and then you push it a little bit more. And most of the time now, if somebody has van graphics from me, they will also have something else, whether it be a couple of T-shirts or a few labels. But it's all those little jobs, the little add-ons that make the difference. And things like the labels, which there's not a huge markup on them, but they're a little regular job that's going on in the background, that once people have ordered from you and they've got in the habit of using it, every 3 or 4 months when they run out, it's a quick email. Can I have 200 or 500 more of those labels? And it's just a regular, income. Yeah.
All right, let's jump over, see what other questions we've had come in from over here. Is there an price jobs? Sorry, just reading through your chat here. I'm a screen printer. How can I become a digital print operator? Where can I get training? I can probably answer that one. Well, you can answer first, and I can always chuck in my 2 pence as well.
I was going to say probably what you were going to say. Yeah. What I found is, as I mentioned, trade shows. There's Sign and Digital coming up in
beginning of April this year.
Yeah, that's a really good show to come and spend half a day or a day. I mean, you could actually spend 3 days there, couldn't you, talking to everybody? But that's a really good place to go to start to look at what the machines do, who's got ranges of what sort of machines, what products each machine can help you create. And then you can start to decide, once you know what products you want to be selling, then you can decide what machine you need for it, and then where you're going to buy your materials from. So it's a really good place to come and speak to not only the manufacturers of the materials and the equipment, but also other printers. I'm there again this year with you. So what I've really enjoyed doing with you guys is coming on the stand and talking to people that are thinking of getting into the industry, and chatting to people about how I've started the business. And I think I would have really benefited from that when I was looking for a printer, because that was one of the reasons it took me 12 months to actually have the push to get it, because I was thinking, is the work there? How long will it take me to pay it off? It's a big purchase. When people come and speak to me about it, I can tell them firsthand, this is what I did, this is how long it took me, and really sort of show people that there is a market out there.
So there we go. Alex will be joining us at Sign and Digital, this big trade show up at the NEC at the beginning of April. So you can always come and talk to Alex, talk to suppliers, talk to media manufacturers. And I'm going to give myself a little plug wherever my shirt jacket is over. I run the Roland Academy. So if you're looking at getting into things, we run training courses in digital print. We do an introduction to digital print, which would be a great starting place as well if you're looking to jump over. But most of the people that you end up talking to in the industry are pretty handy at
Yeah,
giving information, aren't they?
I mean, going back to what you said about the academy, I think even though I've been running the machine for 2.5 years now, every time I come to one of the trade shows or chat to you or chat to one of the service team, I always seem to learn another little trick. Even if we're setting up at the start of the show, I'll see someone move into a little menu and I'll think, oh, what's that? I think
I still do it. It's 7 years in, so
I think it's something that's one thing that I've been really sort of strict with myself, is that trying not to get into that groove of just doing that one thing that I know, and always trying to find out a little bit more and ask the questions about the machine and look at new materials, because it's very easy to to do well doing vehicle graphics or t-shirts or banners or whatever it is that you do, and forget about all of the other things that you could potentially be doing as well.
All right, see if we've got another one. New training. Somebody commenting on the guys at Roland. Thank you for your nice comment. What machines are you using to produce vehicle graphics? What machine are you using? So what machine did you go for? There you go.
I went for an SG 540.
Okay.
At the time, I thought it was bigger than I wanted. I originally looked at the SG 300, and then when I was at the show, there was an SG 540 on display. They'd only just come out. I think they'd been out about a month. So there was a bit of toing and froing as to whether it could be sold as an X demo, and eventually they decided that it could be, and that's what I went for. And at the time, it was big, and it was bigger than I needed.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, I wish I'd have gone for the 640 now. Yeah. But I do everything on that now, from small detail stickers and labels right up to full wraps.
So just for those guys who, I don't know, when you're talking about code names and machines, you might not have got that. Alex has got a 4-color, 54-inch wide print and cut machine, which is in our TrueVIS range, and it's called an SG 540. So that's the one that Alex uses for everything?
Yeah, for everything.
There you go. So we'll answer one more here. Are you using a heat press for the clothing? I think you said yes. Yeah, pretty easy one. Did you get a loan or financing to grow? It's a good one.
Because my sort of business plan was to continue to use the vinyl cutter in the spare room, and because it wasn't my main income, was just to save everything that the business generated, basically. And that was my plan for buying the machine. So I bought the machine outright from 2.5 years of generating business using the cutter. When I bought the print and cut machine, I then put the cutter and the PC and a mixture of software and vinyls on eBay as a sort of package for somebody to start their own business.
Yeah.
And that went towards it as well.
Okay.
But because I've been outsourcing, and I'd been spending, I mean, it had got quite ridiculous on the outsourcing. I'd got to the point where I needed to bring it in-house. But because I'd been factoring in the outsourcing prices in my prices, what I found was when I bought the print in-house, I didn't have to suddenly raise my prices because the outsourcing cost was already factored into the pricing. So that immediately gave me a profit margin. So the day that the printer started, the profit margins were built into my pricing already.
Excellent. All right, so we've answered a few more. We'll come back and answer another couple in a minute. Just another couple of questions, I guess. How do you differentiate yourself from, I don't know, local guys or other people or anybody else doing it, or do you find that there's just enough food out there for everyone to eat?
There is definitely work out there for everybody, and everyone's trying to differentiate themselves. But what I've found is spending time with customers, talking through the materials, being available on social media. I mean, what I found with small business owners is that sort of between 10 o'clock and midnight, people have got time to look on social media, and if somebody's got to order labels, for example, or they want to have the van sign written, a lot of the time they haven't got the time in the day because people are that busy. They can't spend the time looking for a sign writer or trying to get labels designed. So being available between 10 o'clock and midnight at the end of the message, that really helps. So that is one thing that I do try and do, and also the speed of getting products out to people. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you can't. I think as long as you're realistic with delivery times for people appreciate that. But when I can, what I try and do is say to people it's going to take 3 or 4 days, and if it arrives within 2, it's a nice surprise. So we're always trying to be realistic with those times.
All right. 2 more questions on here, and then we'll jump back over to the chat and answer some more. One for us. Why did you choose Roland? Obviously, there's other people you could have chosen.
Yeah, I was really torn between 2, and as I said to you earlier, when people talked about their Roland machines, the Roland users just seem more passionate, passionate about the machine, but also about the support. So that was the big thing for me, because I'd got no knowledge of the machine. I wanted good backup. That was the biggest thing for me. Obviously, as I said, the quality between the machines, there wasn't a lot of difference. It was the support, and that's paid off. It really has, and I've continued my warranty on, and I've used the Roland Care team. I've used the phone support. Like I say, a lot of the time it's user error, but it's always nice to know that if something does go wrong with it, I trust that somebody will be there to fix it within a day or 2 days. Or if it's something I can do myself, I'll be talked through it on the phone. And I've never called, even with a stupid problem, and felt stupid at the end of the call, if you know what I mean.
I do. All right, one more. What's next? And in your journey, I guess, what do you think the next stages would be, and how would you plan to get there?
More growth. Another machine, and taking somebody on to do the installations, or to help with the installations, to leave me free to grow the sales side of things. At the moment, for me, that's the biggest struggle. It's splitting myself between getting the sales and installing the work. So,
okay, brilliant. Right, we'll jump back over into some more questions here. Somebody's just asking, cut layered vinyl or printed?
I mean, it depends on what equipment you've got. If you'd have asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said
loads of layers.
And some of the jobs that I did, bearing in mind that cutter was 60 centimeters wide, I did some very, very big trailer graphics, curtain sider graphics, all with a 60 centimeter cutter. So you can do it if you've got the option of the 2, printed. Because the quality is better, the finish is better. But if you've just got the cutter, then use the cutter. If it means getting the work, then use the cutter. But if you have got a cutter and somebody comes to you with a job that needs printing, or for a product that you don't do, never say no to it. Don't turn it away. There's always somebody out there that you can outsource the work to. So you can do anything.
All right, let's have a quick look. It's a good question. How have you managed when things or jobs have gone belly up, especially in the early days?
Just being honest with people. If things go wrong, just be straight with customers. I think we've all been on the other side of it. If a delivery's not turned up, or somebody's not come around to do a job, and you get excuses, don't you? And it frustrates you. So I think if you're just straight with people and say, it's gone wrong. People might be frustrated, but if you've been straight with them and you offer to put it right, that's all you can do. Accidents happen, mistakes happen, don't they?
I guess it's then just putting in the quick and extra time and effort to get it put right.
I've had wrap jobs where they've been booked in for say a Tuesday, and on the Monday I've come to print the work, and I've left it printing and I've not checked on it. And you come to have a look at it afterwards, and I've loaded the media wrong, or something's gone wrong, and there's marks, and you learn when things go wrong. I think the key is to just take something from it, whether it's your fault or it's a failing somewhere else. There's always something to learn from it. So as long as you're bringing a positive from something going wrong, I think that's the main thing.
Managed to work your way through it. All right. How did you progress from the jump from eBay to selling locally or across the UK?
What I found with I eventually came off eBay, because what I found with eBay, it was just about the lowest price a lot of the time, and I very quickly decided that I didn't want to be that always offering the lowest price. The thing that I wanted to differentiate my business was the service, the quality of service, the materials, and the sort of the honesty with the customers when they came to you for, say, a van graphics job, offering those different levels of of materials, and really trying to match the job to the customer rather than just saying, yes, I can beat that price.
And that's worked for you, expanding?
Yeah, it has. And now I work. I mean, I do a lot of work in the London area. I've got jobs up in Wigan and down on the south coast next month. So, and that's due to social media, and that's due to the willingness to travel and go where the work is, because the reality is, when it is your full-time job, you need to travel where the work is. It's I've always said yes to as many things as I can, which sometimes has worked out well. Other times I've thought to myself, what are you doing? But
yeah, inevitably, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think social media maybe, and being a yes man sounds like the way to go. Would love to come for your training. Just starting out and need all the training I can get for my own business. Brilliant. As you said, coming along to the trade shows, Alex will be there. Alex does run these business startup sessions. I don't know if you've got your next one planned at the moment.
I will put the next 2 or 3 dates on my Twitter and Facebook pages, so if people want to have a.
What I'll do is I'm just going to quickly pop up a link for a few minutes. Just give us a sec, see if that works. Hopefully. Let's have a quick look. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Oh, hopefully on your screens anyway, you should see a little link pop up to Alex's website. Or if you just search the vinyl guys, it'll pop up, and then social media links will be on there as well.
Yeah. Or just send an email, or contact me.
At the end, I'll pop up my details as well, and you can get in touch with Alex or get myself if you are interested in the training that Alex offers as well.
But definitely the show. I mean, come along to Sign and Digital, because it's a great place to be able to chat about it, but physically show people these are the machines, these are materials. Recommend people to go and speak to, and the seminars as well, and the workshops at Sign and Digital are a great place to get more information, and like I said earlier, to network with other people as well that are in the same sort of situation or have started businesses themselves.
There's a couple of other trade shows as well that you guys might not be aware of, depending on what your market is. So Sign and Digital is a big one, print wear promotion, kind of promotional and clothing market side of things as well. There's more of a commercial print one, the print show. There's a few others as well. So keep an eye out. You can always keep an eye out on like Roland's channels as well. We'll always show what shows we're going to and put those up as well. And if you're interested in Roland training, you can come on the Roland Academy as well. When you say you use social media, which ones do you use and what kind of things do you use it for?
I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and it's really each one I try and treat slightly differently, because each one has got a different tone to it, if you like. So LinkedIn is a really good place to connect with business owners and talk about machinery, processes. Look at people who are, for example, on LinkedIn, I'll look at people who are investing in new fleets and try and contact fleet managers that way to promote what I can do for them. And on the others, generally just promoting work that I've done. So what I tend to do is, if I get a job in, I'll link the company into a post saying, thanks for your order today. Probably put a visual up there of what we'll be doing for them, and then as I'm printing the work or cutting the vinyl, I'll take some pictures of that and upload that, and then I'll take some pictures of the installation as well. So it gives people an idea of what's going on in the background, and that goes back to what I was saying about pricing, about having somewhere where customers can not only see the work that you've done, but get a little bit of an understanding about the processes in the background and the machinery. Because once you start having premises and more machinery, then it's more overhead. So in my mind, it was justifying that price a little bit, and really showing people what's going on in the background, and promoting the different things that we can do. And it's a good place. It's a good place for people to go and have a look at jobs that you've done, which can sometimes give them ideas for products that they could have or designs that they could have as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Next one. Where were we? When you use social media. You print the business cards in-house? Question mark.
Yeah, posters we print on the Roland. cards and leaflets. Leaflets are short runs. Sometimes with the cards, we'll outsource them. I've got a good friend who's a printer, so I go and use his equipment, and I do outsource work for him. So I do all the design work, and then
A little bit of
take it across to his workshop. And so I'm physically making the cards myself, but not with machinery that's in house with me. And he'll do the same with me if he needs. He's a screen printer by trade, and they do a lot of card printing. So whenever there's something digital, he'll do the same and come over and do that with me.
Perfect. What do you do for holidays? Not have any.
I think that certainly over the last 12 months, I've been again. You've got to make time for some downtime and holidays. It's I mean, I've got a 9-year-old daughter, a young puppy. We've got a young family. My wife is hugely supportive of what I've been doing, and our sort of ethos around it has been short-term pain, long-term gain. So although the last few years she really has put up with a lot, especially with travelling to install jobs and things like that. There's been a lot of juggling at home.
So holidays to Wigan and London on
for
doing definitely. An install.
But no, you've got to make that time. There's got to be some downtime. And while I said earlier about that 10 o'clock to midnight sort of period of time, it's not every night. It's maybe sort of 3 or 4 nights a week, but you do have to make some time to switch off.
And do you find that's just, sat on the sofa on your phone? It's not like you've got to be sat at your desk with your business hat on all the time.
A lot of the design work I do on the laptop at home, sat on the sofa. A lot of the sort of sales emails and chatting to people on social media, it's usually done on my phone. Same thing, either in bed for half an hour before we go to sleep, or on the sofa at night. Which is the way a lot of people work at the moment. I think.
Just cut out a few of those cute cat videos and do a few business emails and you're flying. Cool. Cut/layered printed for clothing. I think that was probably a referral back to an earlier comment. Probably same thing. Printed or cut and layered.
Yeah. Again, it depends on the design that people want, and that's another thing to be realistic with customers about. When people say they'll send you a print ready logo. So, as you know, somebody's version of a print, and it's similar with big vehicle wraps. I mean, I've had a number of customers send pictures that are high resolution that they think you can use for a 5-meter wide print, and it might look good on the screen, but in reality, it's never going to stretch that size. And sometimes what I end up doing is a 30 centimeter square swatch blown up to that size to physically show them. This is how pixelated that image will be. And again, if you're doing artwork for people, if you're vectorizing logos, if you're finding high resolution images for people, it's something that you've got to charge for, and make sure that people understand why you're charging for it. Because people will see an image that looks good on a screen and think that's good enough for print. But it's about educating your customers and explaining the work that goes on in the background, which I think a lot of the time is something that isn't done, and people wonder why. Well, why am I paying £50 or £70 or £100 for artwork? I've got an image here that looks good.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question there. We'll answer another couple more, and then I think we've been going for almost an hour, so we'll probably call it quits after that. So how much staff have you got? How many staff have you currently got, and how did you go about going from yourself to a team if you did? At what point is it a good idea to start hiring?
I've got me full time, and I've got 2 guys that help with installations on a sort of ad hoc basis. Really, it's the sort of this is the period of time that I'm at the moment, which is. I need to find somebody.
And you've got a 9-year-old daughter. So.
Yeah, I mean she's pretty good with the cut vinyl, but
someone else who can do your weeding.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Is the honest answer? It's something that I'm working around at the moment. The guy that does part-time installations for me is somebody who's been in the industry a long time. So I hope that relationship will develop, and that will maybe turn into something a little bit more full-time. And the hope for me is that spare time that I've got then will lead me to generate more sales, which will give him more work. And obviously the vision for the future is is 2 or 3 more employees, more machinery, and grow that way.
Brilliant. What are we now with the? Oh yeah, a little bit about different materials. Do you with the different materials that you have, dry or wet apply?
Dry apply.
Dry apply.
Dry apply. You've really got to pick the right material for the job. I've seen a lot of people use the wet application for bigger jobs that maybe should have used a different material. The technology behind the materials is fantastic at the moment. And again, going back to the trade shows, it's a great opportunity to walk around and have a look at materials being printed on, being cut, being installed, and being used, and actually get hands on with them, and pick samples up and use them yourself and have a go with them. There's some great air release and wrap materials at the moment that really do make installation simple.
It's something that we cover on the academy training courses. Once you've learned the theory of how adhesive works, how different adhesives works, how the different materials are manufactured, and when you sort of learn about, obviously if you're putting water, or maybe not water, another fluid, loads of washing up liquid that some people tend to go for behind something, obviously you're creating a less of a bond between the two in the end. So most films are meant to be dry applied, but obviously the other thing is check your materials, manufacturers or suppliers, check the information that they give. Most materials should tell you whether they're meant to be wet or dry applied, because some window films are meant to be, some aren't.
And ask for, when you're asking for samples, what will normally happen is you'll get sent out an A4 swatch or maybe something a little bit smaller. If you've got a specific application in mind and you want to try material, phone a supplier and ask for a metre or 2 metres, and a lot of the time they'll send them to you, but it'll be enough for you to have a proper go at using that material and really seeing if it is suitable. But also speak to different suppliers and tell them what application you're looking at, and a lot of the time they'll recommend the right material for the job.
Makes sense. All right, Apple or PC for running your machine and software?
I've always been a Mac user, so I've got a MacBook laptop and an iMac in the office, but I use a laptop, Windows laptop, to run my machine, purely because it's a standalone option. So I use that just to run the printer. So I do all the design work's done on a Mac, saved to the cloud and downloaded to the PC.
Okay. What DPI do you print out for vehicle graphics?
Just the highest. It depends on the job and the artwork.
I guess if somebody's supplied you artwork, you don't always have the choice.
No. What I always do with large scale vehicle graphics is a 50 centimetre square or a 30 centimetre square, again, depending on the artwork, just a test print, just to have a look, what's it going to look like. And if it's artwork I've got control over, then I can go back and I can revisit it. If it's artwork that you've been supplied, a lot of the time, if it's proper high resolution promotional artwork from a big company, a lot of the time it will be good to use.
Perfect. Cool. Here's a bit of a long one. Hold on. So this is walking down the street, lots of digital displays. I saw that effectively replacing printed vinyls and other materials. What do you think the future of printed vinyl and other materials is in terms of the retail space?
That's a good question. It's the same with bus stops and window advertising, isn't it? Everything's being digitised. I think there'll always be a place for it, for printed and cut vinyl. I think we'll digitise more signage as the future goes on, but I think for short term window displays, smaller shops, and certainly for vehicle graphics, certainly in the next 8 or 10 years, there'll be developments, won't there? You are starting to see a few more digitised main retail space signs. who knows?
I find as well on that one, my little bit of input on that one is looking at it the other way as well. So if traditionally, print was used for big flat graphics, then you could say, oh, maybe some digital signage is going to pinch some of that part of the market. But with technology growing in the digital print sector, a lot of other stuff is coming into the digital print side. So maybe instead of just doing your flat panels for your window graphics, you've now got the ability to print onto 3D items. You can print, your phone cases, your personal items. There's a whole lot more that's being brought into the packet, as well as some things that might be taken over by other bits. So, with the technology and materials moving, there's always a lot more coming in, as well as things being taken away.
Yeah, I think once you're in the industry, it is important to keep in touch with the changes in technology within the industry, and again with the trade shows, it's a great place to go to see what people are doing and where the industry is moving in terms of that.
All right, a couple of quick ones, then we're done. Do you need to be an expert in graphic designing to be a printer?
No, I certainly am not. And some jobs are some are a lot more challenging than others. If somebody's coming to you and they want some very simple lettering, it's a nice, easy job. It's typing it out and clicking print. It's when it comes to wraps and artwork designs, it's experience and it's using it, and it's just going back to trying to do it regularly and learning at every opportunity that you've got, watching those, watching the videos and having a go yourself, just trial and error. Just the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And also looking at what else is being done, looking at other people's websites and social media pages, other people in the industry, and see what everyone else is doing. Everybody does it. Some people don't admit that they do it, but you'll always be intrigued at what the competition are doing, in the same way that they'll always be intrigued with what you're doing. And as we said earlier, there's work out there for everybody. So why not have a look and see what other people are doing?
I think what I find on the academy training courses, again, a question that comes up about that, there are other options as well. You can outsource your design. Mm-hmm. Some people do. If they've got the time, they can work with a local designer who they can just, it's only an email away to send across a design that can come back within half an hour. And the other misconception is that if you're not good at design, or people think they're not creative, that they might not be a good designer. You can learn design as well. So, you can, as with anything else, if you spend enough time with it, if you study, you can learn it. It does take a little while, as Alex mentioned. If you start starting from scratch, you do need to put in the time to find that. I often say to people, if they can, when they're learning, especially, put aside whatever it might be, half an hour a day, 2 hours a week, whatever it is, to work on development. Look at setting yourself some challenges. Look at watching some videos, and obviously get yourself into some training.
Yeah, and the thing with it as well is that you'll spend hours designing something, and you'll be really proud of it, and you'll look at it and you'll show it to your wife or husband or boyfriend or whoever, and they'll be, yep, that's brilliant. And you show it to the customer, and it's not what they want. So there will always be somebody will always have in their mind an idea of what they want, and it's always a really good opportunity at that first point of contact when you're talking about design and design brief to ask them to either sketch on a bit of paper or send some pictures of something they've seen or something they've found on the internet, and really try hard to get a flavour of what they actually want. And I'm not saying copy what they show you, but it gives you an idea of the sort of thing that they like, rather than starting from a complete blank canvas. It always helps to have that discussion at the start.
Brilliant. All right, last one. just because we're running on now, so I think your daughter might have joined on and says well done as well, so that's nice.
Hello.
Would you recommend any particular wrap training? I've done the basic course with William Smith, but still areas I need to learn.
I know a guy.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump in on that one and say that we do wrap training here as well. We're here at the moment in Cleveland at our headquarters. We've got a wrap training course here. With wrap training, there's lots of different levels. You could just be looking to get into wrapping, and you want to sort of learn all the theory side of it and get hands-on. It depends how much money you've got and how much time you want to spend as well. Yeah. There's wrap courses you can do that would last for 5 days, 10 days, where you're going to be spending lots of money and getting full hands-on. Maybe you want to go with a specific manufacturer because that's the material you like. Maybe you want to get an overview of everything. So obviously, my bias point, we run vehicle wrap training sessions here that are 2 days that give you a good overview, that you get hands-on time and you get the theory side of it as well. So I'd say hours, but it does depend on what you're looking at.
What's really useful once you've done a wrap training course as well is again, get some sample materials and just practice with it, because it is something that you can spend 2 or 5 or 10 days doing, but you need to be practicing and just have a go with. Even if what I did when I got my first unit was buy an old wing from a scrapyard and practice wrapping that. Yeah.
Well, maybe as well, if you're free and you're in one of Alex's local areas, maybe he could use a spare pair of hands and go and spend some time with him. But thank you all for joining us. That's all the time we've got for now. If there are any other questions that pop in, what we'll do is I'll write them down and either myself or Alex will get back to you via email. If you've got any extra questions. So if you do have any questions, what I'll do is I'll leave the chat up for a couple of minutes just so you can pop those in there and we can get back to you via email at the end. But thanks for listening. Hope it's been useful. Thank you, Alex, for coming down and joining us and sharing all your words of wisdom. It's been really good, I think. For us, it's great for us to be able to talk to you guys and give you information as a manufacturer, but hearing it from somebody like Alex who's been there is the real benefit. So thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
And as I said, I'm gonna try and edit up this set, trim the mishap at the beginning of this webinar out and send this out to you guys as soon as I can. So expect an email or for it to be up on our website. If you do want to look at any of the other old webinars that we've done, if you go to the webinar page on our website, you can see there's about 9 or 10 of them down the bottom there that you can watch back as well. So good evening, good night. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm going to turn off the mic and the camera now. But as I said, I'll leave the chat on for a little bit, so I can finish up in 5 minutes. Cheers.